Hey everyone, welcome back to Immediate Movie Reactions. I'm here after seeing Monkey Man, written, directed, starring Dev Patel, who I'm embarrassed to admit I've never seen him in anything. I haven't seen Slumdog Millionaire, and I have not seen The Green Knight, um, Best Marigold Hotel, whatever it is. Green Knight, I think, is the one that hits me the most because the original Green Knight with Sean Connery is one of the formative movies of my childhood. It's a movie that I loved and I always wanted to watch over and over and over again. Um, so I don't know why I haven't seen it. And I'll tell you, after watching this movie, I want to go back and I want to watch everything that Dev Patel has ever done. I was super excited to see this movie. I didn't want this to be something like Sisu, which came out about a year or so ago that I was really interested in, but then kind of missed. Um, and unfortunately, this is opening weekend, and right around here, there's only a couple showings of it. So I don't know that it's going to be around very long. I'm going to jump to it right now, see it, stream, or skip it. Please see this movie. I love this movie. I will say right now, there's so much that I do want to talk about. However, it is dark and it is like this nasty sleet and it is cold. So I'm going to be very quick here. This is a movie that started out and I wasn't necessarily feeling it. I wasn't quite there as much as I like the look of it, I like the idea of it. This movie is all about motion. It's constantly moving, and whether that is water or the embers of a fire or the ashes of a fire floating into the sky, or if it's the streets of India moving in the background, like there's always something going on. The cameras, like there's a lot of really cool camera work in this, where you have your traditional kind of offset camera, but then they also had a stuntman who was up close holding a camera. There's some really cool interviews out there with Dev Patel talking about how this film was made. And, basically someone was there with a handheld camera right up close, and you can see it in a lot of the action as it kind of flips back and forth. Sometimes it's going between a first person to a third person. But what happened was I started to get a little bit nauseous. I started being like, oh my God, this is a little too much. Maybe this movie isn't quite as clean as I want it to be, which I think is kind of the point because this is about the dirty streets. This is a revenge film. This isn't pretty. This isn't. Um, it's choreographed, obviously, but this isn't like wuxia floating fight scenes and cool sword fights and that sort of thing. This is brutal. This is hard hitting, and it's the story of Dev Patel is the protagonist, whose name I believe is Bobby, though they're never quite. They say his name is Bobby, but then there's also an allusion to maybe that is his secret identity, as he's trying to get revenge. So I think where this movie does fall apart a little bit is it gets a little bit too much into the actual politics of India and trying to portray a message a little bit grander than they had the capability of doing in this. Now, this was filmed during the pandemic and it was dropped by its original publisher. So there's been a lot of issues with it, but I think the final product that we get is absolutely stunning. I, you know, what it does is it takes that sort of Korean style revenge film, as Dev Patel's mother has been killed, his village has been razed, and he's now in the city, unnamed. I don't know if it's Calcutta, I don't know if it's New Delhi, I don't know where it is, but he's hunting down the people who are responsible, right? And so what happens is he takes on this persona of the Monkey Man, which is Hanuman from Indian folklore. It is not Sun Wukong from Chinese. And if you can go in, if you can read the story of the Demon King Ravan, if you know that story, if you know the story of Hanuman, it's going to make this movie make a lot more sense. And I think with a lot of these movies, these kind of revenge, these kung fu films, there's a couple of things that happen. Either the protagonist is just a kick ass, right? He's amazing. He can beat everybody up. Or they're not very good, they get their ass beat, and then they learn and they come back, right? This is the latter. This is him starting out as the Monkey Man, and he's sort of a street fighter. And that's where I see a lot of Tony Jaa references. If you have seen Ong Bak, that is in there. And it shows, like I said, that gritty, dirty underworld, the crime and the networks, and even the movement as there's a pickpocket who steals someone's purse, and then how it moves from one person to the next, showing the interconnectedness, and how the people of the streets are separate from the people that are living, those Brahmins and those untouchables. And our protagonist is really definitely a part of that world, and he's always constantly in motion. He can't sleep, but he's not a very good fighter. He seems to have some skills, but he just gets his ass kicked. So when he goes for his initial revenge, sorry, spoiler, first initial revenge, it doesn't go very well, right? He gets his ass beat, and it is absolutely just it's great. It feels good. It's visceral. Um, but then he has to find out what it is that's going to make him into Hanuman, that's going to make him into the Monkey King, that's going to make him into this figure that can kind of be the spirit of vengeance and come back. And that's where I think, for me, the film really turned. Because, like I said, at the beginning, it felt very cliche, very one note, very like, I've seen this all before. As cool as it is to see it in India, it's not necessarily anything new. But I think if you've watched any of my films before, any of my videos before, there's a couple of things that I'm a sucker for. Number one, it's showing the culture of a people, showing something that is endemic to them and their nation and where they're from. The other thing is a montage. So, especially a training montage, right? And so, what happens is there is a moment in this film where he's gotten himself basically killed, and he has to decide, where do I go from here? And he starts to train. And that is just something that's so endemic to the people around him, and the culture. And I think that's where the movie started to turn for me. I really started to identify a little bit more. Um, and from there, really from that point, just a little bit before that, the movie, like I said, even though it's in constant motion, it's just like this roller coaster, and it takes off, and it's absolutely thrilling. Like I loved it. There is a lot of references or a lot of allusions to that Indonesian style of martial arts, and just the punches and the brutality. There's a fight scene, a group fight scene, which is kind of the penultimate conflict of this movie, where it's very Tom Yum Gun, Tony Jaa, and what I loved about it is their willingness to have Dev Patel not be the central. All the action is kind of flowing around him, but he's not always center on the screen. Like, you're seeing other things. Sometimes you're seeing it through a mirror, sometimes you're seeing it from someone else's point of view, but he's not perfectly center with everything just rotating around them. And honestly, it's beautiful to watch. It's just a constant flow of action, of things going on. And this isn't quite as, you know, horrifically brutal and violent as, say, The Raid or The Raid Redemption, those Iko Uwais, those type of movies. But it is unapologetic in its brutality. There's some definite trigger warnings. There's some sexual assault. There's fires. There's people getting the shit beat out of them. And I really bring that up because even though I didn't go see this, my youngest is 14. He was there with us. This was kind of on the edge of where I would kind of want him to see, but there was a kid probably 8 or 10 years old in this theater, and Jesus, I know it says Monkey Man, but this is not a kid's movie. This is a violent, brutal movie that I think is good at the beginning, but by the end is just absolutely fantastic. And even if it is pretty cliche, even if you see everything going, even if it tries to give a moral that is beyond its scope, I think it all pulls together so well, and it's a fantastic film. So yeah, see it, stream or skip it. Please go see this movie at the very least. Rent it, buy it, whatever, when it comes out. If you like action movies, if you like that Eastern style of martial arts films, this is going to be absolutely perfect. You're going to love this movie. So that's really all that I got for now. I'm going to get in where it's a little bit warmer. Please, I'm out here in the rain and the cold and the snow and that. So please like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And I will see you after the next movie.